Afternoon, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. What I wanted to do today was I wanted to show you a different take on a video. I want to do a very minimal overnighter in an open area that's not forested. It's just a scrub prairie, if you want to call it that. And it's on fairly high ground on top of that. There's not a whole lot of windbreak going on other than these high grass and things that are in the areas where you might rabbit hunt, pheasant hunt, quail hunt, things like that. And you get stranded into an overnight situation with very minimal kit. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to show you what you're going to do, and we're going to spend a minimal overnighter out here tonight and show you exactly how to handle that situation with almost no gear whatsoever. All right, so the first thing we should talk about in this video is the caveat of understanding that when we're out recreating, no matter what we're doing, in this case, hunting is the scenario, small game hunting, we're dressed for the conditions, and we also have something with us to battle changes in those conditions that's relevant to the time of year, the environment, and geographic area that we live in. And here, you know, it could rain or snow at any given moment. It hovers around that 34, 35, sometimes 32, 31, 30. So it could snow or rain, but it does it quite often. It's cloudy right now. It can rain at any time. It's not cold enough right now, I don't think, to snow. I can usually feel that in my hands when it's that cold outside. It's not. It's probably hovering around 35 right now. But if it started raining right now hard and you got wet, 35 is a big problem. So you have to understand those things. So we're dressed for the environment. We've got the proper clothing on for the environment, and we have a poncho with us in case it were to rain. I always have a poncho in my backpack. Now, the minimal kit that I have with me, I have a water bottle. I have an SAK. I have a small roll of bank line. I have an emergency bivvy, and I have a headlight. That's it. That's all I have other than the clothing on my back, and that's all in a small canvas backpack. So that's what we're going to use tonight. But what I want to talk to you about really is how do you handle areas like this where you're not in the woods and you can't get under good cover and things like that. You may be susceptible to wind and weather. And what can you do to make yourself more comfortable? You don't have something to sleep on. You know, you don't have anything to battle conduction. So what are you going to do to make a browse bed or find a comfortable place to lay down? And then what are you going to do to enhance that shelter with the kit that you have on you for the night? So stay with me, we'll get started. All right, so what you can see here is a large section of field millet, and right behind that section of field millet there is a bunch of brambles. Nothing's going to come through those brambles, so if we're trying to protect ourselves from animals, we're going to get as close to those brambles as we can and try to surround ourselves on 2 sides or 3 if it's possible. But all of this dead field millet right here is what we're going to use for our bedding. And we can just trample this down, snap some off, pile it up to put our bedding on top of. The other thing about this dead field millet is it's pretty easy to harvest. We're not going to need a saw. We're not going to need an axe. All we need to do is start breaking the stuff off and piling it up to make our browse bed. All right, so this is the area that we've chosen. We got some brambles here, brambles behind us, some over there, but nothing really right here. So if we start bending this stuff down over itself, just like this, and bending it in, this is what we're going to use for our bedding. So we'll bend all of this stuff around us in so that we've got a pretty good bed. We don't want to take everything right from this immediate area because we need to use this for cover from wind as well. So we're bending down enough in front of us and maybe taking a little bit from right around the front and the sides and the back just to give us some room to maneuver. However, what we're not going to do is take all of this area out and not be able to have wind breaks from at least the amount of vegetation that we have. So once we pile this up, without getting too drastic around here, we'll walk over a little ways, we'll get more and we'll bring it in. Okay, so one thing we should address right away is when we're doing this is understanding that the more elaborate we get, the more we work, the more we sweat, the more we go through calories, the more we go through our hydration. So if this is just an overnighter, we don't have to get extravagant. All we have to do is make sure that we're covered up from the wind and weather, that we have a comfortable place to sleep on the ground, and that we can stay warm enough to protect our body core temperature. And our clothing should do 90% of that for us. The bivvy is just a bonus. But because it's waterproof, for the most part, we can lay it down on ground that may be semi-marginally damp and not suffer too bad. Remember that we also have a poncho. So we can lay it down first, lay the bivvy on top of that, and throw the poncho over top of that even, and give us a couple layers. Situations like this, fire is pretty much going to be out of the question. Yes, it's romantic. You might as well get used to that, because in a real scenario, it may not be possible to make a fire. Yes, I have a cigarette lighter. Yes, I have dead weeds around me everywhere. And that is exactly why I'm not making a fire, because there's a chance of fire hazard, and I can do comfortably enough without a fire. And that's really the point you want to get to. You want to get to the point where you can get comfortable enough in foul weather or colder weather with the kit that you're carrying, so that you don't need to build an elaborate shelter and cut a bunch of trees down for no reason, spend a bunch of calories building a shelter that you may or may not be spending the night in, and then get up and leave the next day. Why? Right? Build what you have to have, especially in an emergency. Take care of that body core temperature. Make sure that you've got something to sleep on, something to sleep in, something to sleep under. Make sure you're dressed for the conditions. If you have to have a fire to disinfect water, something like that, that's one thing. But you have to pay attention to the surroundings. I'm in an area right now that there would be an extreme fire hazard for me to have a very big fire. So a warming fire is definitely out of the question right now, unless I want to cut back all of the brush that's going to protect me from possible weather later, which I don't want to do. That would be a sacrifice I'm not willing to make. So we're going to bed down right here. It may not be romantic, but it is what it is. Now, like I said, canvas backpack, poncho, bivvy, little cordage, water bottle, headlight, cigarette lighter. I got one in my pocket. We're not going to use any of this stuff. We're not even going to use this cordage at all. And we're going to use our bivvy and our poncho. And we're going to bed down for the night. The only thing I'm worried about here is my core. This poncho is not going to be big enough the other direction. So I'm going to lay my cord here, my feet down here, and I'm going to call that good. Same thing with this bivvy stack. I'm going to have to shimmy into this thing anyway, because they're not real big, and they are exactly what they say they are. They're emergency bivvy. So once I worm my way into this thing, I'm going to sit down on my butt and lean back right there, and that's it for the night. Good pillow for the night, no problem. All right, this thing's a bit of a trick, but it's doable. The rest of the clothing I have on is staying on me. Remember, if my head gets cold, I have a hood. Well, much I hate to say it, I need a drink. Notice when I pick that water bottle up, it's like this, right? In case your water freezes, it freezes from the top down. Turning that thing upside down will almost always guarantee you got water at the top that's not frozen when you open the water bottle. I don't want to drink too much water. It's going to mean getting up and taking a leak. And that's a real pain in these bivvies. One thing I ended up doing, I will tell you now, is I took my whoopee off because I started to get warm on top, but my feet got cold. And my whoopie's down here in the bottom of my thing here. Let's see if I can pull it out of here. There it is. Oh, buddy. I have my whoopee down there to keep my feet warm, which is fine. My whoopee jacket here. I had it stuffed all the way down to the bottom of this thing, keep my feet warm, and that worked out really, really well. This bag does trap plenty of heat. Only got down to about 32 last night. I looked at my phone this morning. I took a screenshot of it, but it was like 32 this morning when I woke up. I don't know what time it was, 6:15, something like that. But it, yeah, not a bad system. All right, guys, so I apologize. I don't have a bunch of fancy camera gear, and this is probably really grainy looking. I've got my headlight just cord locked onto my tripod off my head, and I can't iPhone on a tripod here to do this. But after action report from last night, you know, it wasn't a bad night at all. It's not bad right now. I'm plenty warm right now. I had taken my whoopee off in the middle of the night and shoved it down the bottom of this bag. One of the things that you want to avoid if possible is you don't want to sleep in boots. You want your feet to be able to breathe. And there wasn't enough insulation really in here and enough body heat down at the bottom of this thing to keep my feet warm without anything on them. So I ended up taking this whoopee jacket off and shoving it down the bottom and wrapping my feet into it, and then it was fine. And because I had this minus 33 degree base layer on, my core stayed fine all night with just this bivvy bag and this poncho over the top of it. So the ground was a little hard. You know, I didn't have as much insulation as I'd like to have, but I didn't get cold. It didn't get too bad last night. There's no frost on anything. According to my phone, it was 32 degrees this morning. But again, there's no frost on anything. So it's not too horribly bad. But these bivvies, these survival bivvies are only rated to about 40 degrees anyway. And it was definitely colder than that. So with a good base layer of clothes on, you should be fine below 40. I don't know how far below 40. But they do work well. And then, of course, with this poncho over the top of it, that held some heat in and took care of some things too. Gave me just an extra little bit of a layer with this poncho over top of me. And I'm sitting up here this morning. I've still got my feet stuffed into everything, but now I've got my legs crossed. So I'm a little bit warmer. I'm able to sit on my feet to keep them warm. I've still got my legs inside the bivvy and things like that. And I've got the poncho wrapped over top of my legs as well. And I put my whoopee jacket back on because I was going to have my core exposed out here, not covered up anymore. Well, starting to get somewhat daylight out here. You can kind of see it in the background back there. It's not there yet, but it's going to be a cloudy day today for sure. I'm going to pack up probably pretty quick and get out of here. But, you know, one thing I was thinking last night when I was laying here, I just kind of wanted to tell you this morning on this video, because you're kind of like vlogs for me, you know, what I'm doing. But I was sitting here thinking last night, I hear people on the internet talking about being old men, and they're not even 50 years old yet. And that just makes me laugh out loud, to be honest with you, because when I was 50 years old, I was bulletproof. I was traveling the world, doing whatever I wanted to do, and I just felt like I was, you know, unstoppable. And now that I'm 60 years old, you know, and I'm 60 years old, was 60 years old this year. I'll be 61 this year. And I got to think about things a little different, you know. Feet getting cold at night because circulation not quite what it used to be. Got to plan for things like that. Maybe put a little extra padding down on the ground when you're laying down on hard ground like this, because it's not as easy as it used to be. Your back hurts a little bit in the morning where it didn't used to hurt in the morning when you got up off hard ground. But we can still get the job done, even at 60. And I still don't consider myself old, just saying. This is just an old Forest Service backpack I picked up, I don't know, a long time ago, but I've had it forever. It's just a nice OD green color canvas backpack. Got one tie on it here that ties across, And it's got one pocket in it here to put a few odds and ends, but it's a pretty good little pack for sure. Definitely does the job for a pillow. It definitely holds everything I need to hold for a quick hunt for sure. Easy just to stuff stuff down inside of it. Works out well for that.